Hello and welcome to Stories to Fall Asleep To, the second season of Reading with Cari. This Mindfulness Podcast incorporates ASMR elements to help reduce your stress, relieve your anxiety, and lull you to sleep. I am your host, Cari Favole, and I am so thankful that you've decided to spend some time with me. New episodes air every Wednesdays on any device you listen to podcasts. Click the link in the description to find the podcast now. Thank you and enjoy. Welcome to the first episode of Season 2, Stories to Fall Asleep To. As I mentioned in the last episode, I wanted to change direction just a little bit of the podcast. The heart and soul still remains, but I'm just giving it a little tweak to see if this will help you, the listener, and me, the host. Speaking of being in the moment, my stomach is digesting breakfast and I'm trying to cut out the rumbles as much as possible. But you might hear that a little bit in the background. So I thought it would be really relevant and appropriate to have the mindful meditation be on new beginnings. I really love this idea, and I've actually incorporated it a bit in my New Year's celebrations. I've had friends join in on a similar thing. It didn't really necessarily focus on the mindfulness aspect, but the ritual, if you will, that's involved with it is really powerful, but really simple. And again, don't be worried by the term ritual. It is not any sort of religious connotation. It's just a two-step process, really, that helps with resolutions. So before we begin our stories, let's start with that exercise. This meditation is on embracing new beginnings and letting go. First, let's start by centering our mind and body together with nice, even, natural breathing. Don't change your breath. Just notice how you inhale and exhale. And focus on the feelings of the air entering your lungs and resting for just a moment in pure silence before you exhale and once again relax in that moment without any air in your lungs. Feel your body relax. Will your neck and your shoulders to release the tension you're holding there, and fully place your weight on the chair that you're sitting in or the bed that you're laying on. And now, sit for a moment with the question, what in your life needs closure? Is there something that you need to let go? A bridge you need to burn, a toxic relationship you need to escape? Is there a vice that's controlling your life? Or maybe a bad job that you want to get out of? Once you've come up with something, maybe it's drinking too much, sleeping too late, allowing yourself to indulge in negative thoughts, sit with that object, idea, concept, or decision that you've identified. You may find it useful to get a pen and paper and write down all of the thoughts that come to mind, the emotions that you feel, the memories that you associate with this negative presence. Allow time and space for whatever arises, but try not to indulge in the negative feelings. Just put a name to what you are feeling, identify it, and if it would help, write it down. And now we're going to let that object go. Your decision to let it go is the first step in your new beginning. If you've written this down, you can either crumple up the paper and throw it away, or what I love to do is, in a safe and appropriate area, light the paper on fire and watch that negative energy burn away. If you didn't write it down, imagine all of those negative thoughts, emotions, painful memories being thrown out of your mind's window or being burned in a fire pit that you've created. And now focus on your body as you release this negative feelings. What does letting go now make space for? Will you have time to pick up a new hobby or skill? Will you be able to reconnect with your family or a friend? Will you get to focus on what makes you truly happy? Congratulations, you've taken that first step to let go. As always, remember, if these feelings are too much for you to handle, seek out professional help. It is not a weakness to ask for help. It is a sign of courage and maturity. And now that you've taken the reins on your life, you can now breathe the fresh air of a new beginning. So take a nice, long inhale and breathe out an audible sigh. Let's get started. And now, here are 3 stories from Aesop's Fables. The Ants and the Grasshopper. On a bright day in late autumn, a family of ants were bustling about in the warm sunshine, drying out the grain they had stored up during the summer, when a starving grasshopper, his fiddle under his arm, came up and humbly begged for a bite to eat. "What?" cried the ants in surprise. "Haven't you stored anything away for the winter? What in the world were you doing all last summer?" "I didn't have time to store up any food," whined the grasshopper. "I was so busy making music that before I knew it, the summer was gone." The ants shrugged their shoulders in disgust. "Making music, were you?" they cried. "Very well, now dance." And they turned their backs on the grasshopper and went on with their work. There's a time for work and a time for play. The Boys and the Frogs. Some boys were playing one day at the edge of a pond in which lived a family of frogs. The boys amused themselves by throwing stones into the pond so as to make them skip on top of the water. The stones were flying thick and fast, and the boys were enjoying themselves very much. But the poor frogs in the pond were trembling with fear. At last, one of the frogs, the oldest and the bravest, put his head out of the water and said, "Oh, please, dear children, stop your cruel play. Though it may be fun for you, it means death to us. Always stop to think whether your fun may not be the cause of another's unhappiness." The Ass Carrying the Image. A sacred image was being carried to the temple. It was mounted on an ass, adorned with garlands and gorgeous trappings, and a grand procession of priests and pages followed through the streets. As the ass walked along, the people bowed their heads reverently or fell on their knees, and the ass thought the honor was being paid to himself. With his head full of this foolish idea, he became so puffed up with pride and vanity that he halted and started to bray loudly. But in the midst of his song, his driver guessed what the ass had got into his head and began to beat him unmercifully with a stick. "Go along with you, you stupid ass," he cried. "The honor is not meant for you, but for the image you are carrying. Do not try to take the credit to yourself that is due to others." Thank you for listening. I welcome you back anytime you need to hear a comforting voice or a familiar bedtime story. But for now, let's prepare your mind and body for some much-needed rest. Start by checking in with your body and making sure you are as comfortable as possible. Place the tip of your tongue on the tissue right behind the top front teeth. Slowly exhale and empty the lungs of air. Through the nose, breathe in quietly for 4 seconds. 3, 4. Hold the breath for a count of 7 seconds. 5, 6, 7. Purse your lips and exhale forcefully through the mouth, making a whoosh sound for 8 seconds. 6, 7, 8. If you need to, you can repeat this cycle up to 4 times, but any more than 4, and you might start to feel lightheaded or dizzy. Remember that if you find it too difficult to hold your breath on the count of 7, you can use a shorter cycle of 2 seconds breathing in, hold your breath for 3.5 seconds, and exhale for 4 seconds. Good night and sleep well, my friend.